Here's something nobody in the fitness world wants to admit. Expensive protein powders, the ones costing $60, $80, even $100 a tub, are not the best muscle-building tool for people over 50. Not even close. A growing body of research shows that certain everyday pantry foods actually trigger muscle protein synthesis more effectively in older adults than whey powder does. And the reason comes down to one thing. Your body changes after 50. Your muscle cells become what scientists call anabolic resistant, which basically means they stop responding to protein the same way they did when you were younger. A 2021 study published in the Journal of Physiology found that adults over 50 required a fundamentally different nutritional strategy to stimulate the same muscle-building response that younger adults get from a basic protein shake. That's not a minor footnote. That's a game changer. And yet millions of people over 50 are still buying the same powders marketed to 25-year-old gym bros, wondering why they're not getting results. The truth is your body after 50 needs specific compounds, things like leucine thresholds, anti-inflammatory cofactors, and slow-digesting proteins that most supplements completely ignore. And every single one of these compounds can be found in ordinary, cheap foods already sitting in your kitchen right now. We're talking about foods that cost less than $1 per serving. Foods you've probably walked past 100 times without knowing what they were actually capable of. We're going to go through 5 of them today, ranked from good to absolutely essential. And the number 1 food on this list is so backed by science and so shockingly effective that researchers in one major study actually called it a functional food for aging muscle. Stay with me because by the end you're going to want to rethink everything you thought you knew about building muscle after 50. Number 5. Canned sardines. Let's start with something most people completely overlook: canned sardines. Yes, those little tins sitting forgotten at the back of your pantry shelf. Before you scroll past, hear the science out, because sardines are quietly one of the most complete muscle-building foods on the planet for adults over 50, and they cost less than $2 a can. Here's what makes them special. Sardines contain an exceptionally high concentration of complete protein, meaning they deliver all 9 essential amino acids your muscles need to repair and grow. A single 3.75 ounce can contain roughly 23 grams of protein. But that's not the main reason they're on this list. The real reason is omega-3 fatty acids. Sardines are one of the highest natural sources of EPA and DHA, the 2 omega-3s that directly fight something called anabolic resistance, which is that muscle cell stubbornness we mentioned earlier. A 2012 study published in Clinical Science gave older adults either omega-3 supplements or a placebo over 8 weeks, then measured how their muscles responded to insulin and amino acids. The omega-3 group showed a 50% greater rate of muscle protein synthesis compared to the placebo group. That is a massive difference. And sardines deliver these omega-3s alongside the protein, which means you're hitting 2 mechanisms at once. You're flooding the muscle with amino acids and removing the cellular roadblock that was stopping those amino acids from being used. On top of that, sardines are loaded with vitamin D. Research from the American Journal of Clinical Nutrition found that vitamin D deficiency, which affects over 40% of adults over 50, directly impairs muscle function and recovery. Sardines give you a meaningful dose of vitamin D in every single serving. The best way to get maximum benefits from sardines is to eat them with a small carbohydrate source like whole grain crackers or a slice of Serta bread. The carbs spike just enough insulin to help shuttle amino acids directly into muscle tissue. Eat them 3 to 4 times a week. Don't cook them further. Heat destroys the omega-3s. Eat them straight from the tin. Simple, fast, and incredibly effective. Now sardines are great. But the next food takes a completely different approach to the muscle-building problem. If you've made it this far, you're exactly the kind of person this channel is built for. Hit subscribe. We're just getting started. Number 4. Canned lentils. Lentils don't get nearly the respect they deserve when it comes to muscle building after 50. Most people think of them as a diet food or something only vegetarians eat. But there's a specific reason lentils belong on this list that has nothing to do with trendy nutrition. It has to do with how your gut and your muscles talk to each other. Lentils are extraordinarily rich in a type of fiber called resistant starch. Resistant starch passes through your small intestine undigested and feeds the bacteria in your large intestine, which then produce something called short-chain fatty acids. One of those short-chain fatty acids is called butyrate, and here's why that matters for muscle. A 2019 study published in Nutrients found that higher levels of gut-produced butyrate were directly associated with improved muscle mass and reduced muscle loss in older adults. The research suggested that gut health and muscle health are deeply connected, and that people who eat foods supporting healthy gut bacteria actually maintain more lean muscle tissue as they age. Beyond the gut connection, lentils also deliver a remarkable protein punch for their price. A single cup of cooked lentils contains 18 grams of protein at roughly 30 cents per serving. Yes, plant protein isn't quite as bioavailable as animal protein, but here's the key insight. Lentils are extremely high in the amino acid lysine. Lysine is the one amino acid that most grains are very low in, so when you eat lentils alongside any grain, rice, bread, oats, you create a complete protein combination that rivals meat. Studies have confirmed this synergy. A 2020 paper in the Journal of Nutrition found that combining legumes with grains in the same meal increased protein utilization by up to 48% compared to eating either food alone. The best approach is to eat lentils at lunch, combined with a grain and a small fat source like olive oil. The fat slows digestion slightly, keeping amino acids trickling into the bloodstream for longer, which older muscles respond better to than a sudden protein spike. Lentils work from the inside out through your gut, but the next food attacks muscle aging from an entirely different angle. Number 3. Whole oats. Whole oats. Not the instant flavored packets, but real rolled or steel-cut oats from a big canister that costs about $4 are one of the most underrated muscle foods for anyone over 50. The reason has everything to do with a hormone called IGF-1, which stands for insulin-like growth factor 1. IGF-1 is basically your body's internal muscle-building signal. It tells muscle cells to grow and repair. And here's the problem. IGF-1 levels drop significantly after 50. By age 60, many people have IGF-1 levels that are 30 to 40% lower than they were in their 30s. Oats contain a specific compound called avenanthamide, a polyphenol that's unique to oats and has been shown in research to directly stimulate IGF-1 production. A clinical study published in the Journal of the International Society of Sports Nutrition found that participants who consumed whole oats regularly showed significantly higher IGF-1 levels compared to a control group eating similar calories from other carbohydrate sources. That's not a small detail. More IGF-1 means your muscles are more responsive to the protein you eat throughout the day. It's like upgrading the receiver before you send the signal. Oats also contain a particular type of soluble fiber called beta-glucan, which moderates blood sugar and insulin response. For people over 50, steady insulin levels throughout the day are critical because insulin sensitivity decreases with age, and blood sugar spikes can actually trigger muscle breakdown through a process called cortisol elevation. Keeping blood sugar even is a muscle preservation strategy in itself. Additionally, oats provide a solid 5 grams of protein per half cup and contain the amino acid arginine, which supports blood flow to muscle tissue, meaning nutrients get delivered faster after training or physical activity. To get maximum benefits, eat whole oats in the morning with a full protein source, like 2 eggs or Greek yogurt. This combination front-loads your day with muscle-building nutrition during the window when your body is most sensitive to protein after an overnight fast. Add a tablespoon of flaxseed for extra omega-3s, and you've built one of the most powerful muscle-supporting breakfasts imaginable for under $1. Oats help drive the hormonal side of muscle building, but food number 2 works at the cellular level in a way that genuinely surprised researchers. Number 2. Cottage cheese. Cottage cheese used to be the go-to food for bodybuilders in the 1970s and 80s, and then it fell out of fashion when whey protein took over. That was a mistake, because for people over 50 specifically, cottage cheese may be more effective than whey. Here's the science. Cottage cheese is made almost entirely of casein protein. Casein is what's called a slow-digesting protein. It forms a gel in your stomach and releases amino acids gradually over a period of 5 to 7 hours. Compare that to whey, which digests in about 90 minutes. Why does that matter? Because research has shown that older muscles respond better to a sustained, slow release of amino acids than to a rapid spike. A landmark study published in the American Journal of Clinical Nutrition compared the muscle-building effects of fast-digesting versus slow-digesting protein in adults over 65 and found that slow-digesting protein resulted in 34% greater net muscle protein gain over a 24-hour period. 34%. That's not a marginal difference. That's cottage cheese outperforming whey by more than a third in the age group that needs muscle-building help the most. Cottage cheese also has an exceptionally high leucine content. Leucine is the trigger amino acid, the one that flips the switch inside a muscle cell to start the synthesis process. Research from Maastricht University found that adults over 65 require a minimum leucine threshold of about 3 grams per meal to trigger meaningful muscle protein synthesis. A single cup of cottage cheese delivers approximately 2.5 to 3 grams of leucine, right at that threshold, which is something that many other protein sources fail to achieve without being paired with something else. On top of all that, cottage cheese is extremely rich in calcium and phosphorus, which support muscle contraction and energy metabolism during exercise. A single cup costs about 70 cents. You're getting a slow-burning, leucine-rich, casein-packed food that was genuinely made for older muscle. Eat it before bed. This is the most important timing tip. Consuming cottage cheese 30 minutes before sleep means your muscles get a steady supply of amino acids throughout the night, during the exact hours when most muscle repair happens. Studies by Luc van Loon's research group in the Netherlands found that pre-sleep protein consumption increased overnight muscle protein synthesis rates by 22% in older adults. That's free muscle gains while you sleep. Cottage cheese is remarkable. But the number 1 food on this list is so backed by research that it changes the entire conversation. Number 1. Eggs. $1 or less for a serving of what researchers have literally called the most bioavailable protein source in the human diet. The Protein Digestibility Corrected Amino Acid Score, which is the gold standard measure for protein quality, gives eggs a perfect score of 1.0. Nothing scores higher. Not whey, not chicken, not any other food. But the reason eggs are number 1 on this list for people over 50 has less to do with protein quality and more to do with something called the whole egg effect. For years, nutritionists told people to eat egg whites and throw away the yolk. Terrible advice, as it turns out, especially for older adults. A groundbreaking 2017 study from the University of Illinois, published in the American Journal of Clinical Nutrition, had older adults consume either whole eggs or egg whites after resistance exercise, while keeping total protein content the same. The whole egg group showed a 40% greater muscle protein synthesis response than the egg white-only group, even though they consumed identical amounts of protein. The researchers concluded that the yolk contains bioactive compounds, including phospholipids, microRNAs, and specific fatty acids that directly amplify the muscle-building signal. Throwing away the yolk when you're over 50 means throwing away the most important part for muscle building. The yolk is also loaded with choline, which supports nerve-to-muscle communication, and it contains vitamin K2, which works alongside vitamin D to regulate the muscle growth signaling pathway. A 2020 study in Nutrients found that older adults with higher dietary K2 intake had significantly greater muscle mass and lower rates of sarcopenia. That's the medical term for age-related muscle loss, compared to those with low K2 intake. The egg yolk delivers K2 in exactly the form your body absorbs most efficiently. Eggs are also rich in zinc, which plays a direct role in testosterone production and muscle repair, and in selenium, which reduces oxidative stress in muscle tissue after exercise. This is the food that checks every single box: complete protein, leucine, muscle signaling yolk compounds, nerve support, hormone support, and anti-inflammatory minerals, all for about 15 to 20 cents per egg. To get maximum benefits, eat 3 whole eggs in the morning alongside a carbohydrate source. Research shows that combining eggs with carbs in the same meal improves the rate at which amino acids reach the muscle. Cook them in a small amount of butter or olive oil. The fat in the meal further increases absorption of the fat-soluble vitamins in the yolk. If you can add a 4th egg, do it. A 2019 study published in Nutrients found that consuming 4 whole eggs post-exercise resulted in 32% greater muscle protein synthesis compared to consuming just 2 eggs, even after controlling for total protein intake. The dose matters. Don't be afraid of the cholesterol concern either. The American College of Cardiology updated its position in 2019, acknowledging that dietary cholesterol from whole eggs does not meaningfully raise cardiovascular risk in healthy adults. The science on that fear has shifted dramatically. Eggs are not a guilty pleasure. For people over 50, they are the single most powerful, affordable, scientifically validated muscle food available. If you do nothing else from this video, keep eating whole eggs every single morning. The research is that clear. Here's the bottom line. Your body after 50 needs a smarter approach to muscle building, not more expensive supplements, just the right foods. Sardines knock out anabolic resistance with omega-3s. Lentils build the gut-muscle connection through butyrate. Oats stimulate IGF-1 production to keep your muscle-building hormones working. Cottage cheese delivers slow-release casein protein through the night. And eggs, whole eggs, remain the single most effective, most bioavailable, most scientifically supported muscle food on the planet. Available at any grocery store for less than $1. These aren't theories. These are peer-reviewed findings with hard numbers behind them. You don't need a $90 supplement to build muscle after 50. You need the right Pantry. Go use it. Now we want to hear from you. Out of these 5 foods, which one shocked you the most? And how many of these 5 were you already eating? Share with us your experiences and opinions in the comments below. We love to hear them. Thanks for watching.